Let's move over to the great state of Louisiana. We're going to Baton Rouge to talk about the LSU Tigers.
The
And one of
Tigers.
us on the show is a Tigers fan.
That's right. Take a
You
guess.
can
Take a guess.
take a guess. It's our first contest. What do they win if they get this right?
The joy of being right. That's
The LSU offense lost quite a bit from this past
Oh yeah.
season, including Heisman winner Jaden Daniels, Malik
hmm
Neighbors at receiver, Brian Thomas at receiver, Logan Diggs transferred. So there's a lot of holes to fill, but the
Yeah.
strength of the Tigers offense starts up front with four returning starters,
Yeah.
including two preseason all SEC performers
hmm
in Will Campbell and Emory Jones. So they're going to be tough on the line.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Garrett Nussmeyer is taking over at quarterback.
hmm
He has waited for this opportunity.
hmm
We're going to wait and see. We've only seen him in a bowl game as a
Yeah.
starter,
Yeah.
but he seems to have all the tools to be
hmm
successful at quarterback. And
Absolutely.
he's got a great receiver in Kyron Lacey to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
throwing to, including they also added a receiver from Liberty,
Yeah.
1,000-yard plus receiver CJ Daniels coming over from Liberty, as well as Xavier Thomas coming over from Mississippi State, who's used to scoring a lot of points. He played in Mike Leach's
Yep.
offense. They've got at the running back position. Now, when you talk about running backs in the SEC, Darren, every SEC team probably goes 3 or 4 deep at the running
Yeah.
back
Has a
position.
loaded running back room. Absolutely.
And LSU has a stud in Caleb Jackson. This
Yep.
guy, he's big, he's strong, he's
hmm
fast.
hmm
I think he's going to do good things. Now,
Yep.
LSU
Agree.
had to replace Mike Denbrock, offensive coordinator, who did a great job. Uh, Brian Kelly, the head coach, chose to replace him internally with Joe
Yep.
Sloan and Cortez Hankton.
Hankton.
So
Yep.
we'll see how that goes. But when you look at this new offense, which really what it is, Darren, with the losses,
hmm
what are you expecting, or what do you see from this LSU offense?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think Garrett Nussmeyer decision making, that process, I think that's the biggest unknown, because you can't question his physical ability. I mean, just like you said, he has waited on this opportunity. He has shown when the opportunity presented itself that he has the physical tools and traits to be successful. Now it is day in and day out, game in and game out, facing SEC defenses. What does that look like? How does that decision making process, how has it matured? He is, even in practices and scrimmages when they go ones on ones versus ones, has shown a little bit of shakiness in the decision making processes, been a little apt to interceptions. But some are saying that that's maybe a little bit of excitement about the position and kind of forcing things that'll even itself out. Of course, LSU fans, that's exactly what you're hoping for. But and I tell you, listening to, I just watched a few like local sports stories in Baton Rouge over the last week or so. The conversation about CJ Daniel and oh, I'm just absolutely blank. What's the running back you just said? What was his name?
Caleb Jackson.
Caleb Jackson. Thank you. The excitement about those two guys, with Caleb Jackson, his ability to get out of the backfield and get open, and the hands he's shown as a receiver in both drills and in scrimmages, people are really excited about. And CJ Daniel, anytime someone transfers from outside the SEC, especially from Group of Five as opposed to Power Five, there's conversation about, is he big enough? Is he going to hold up? Can he handle, man press offense in the SEC or man press defense in the SEC? And LSU had a scrimmage with some press availability Saturday, and there were two different times that he caught a ball, made his turn after he caught the ball, and in the words of the sportscaster in Baton Rouge that I was listening to, absolutely trucked the guy that was trying to tackle him. So I think he's showing what everybody wants to see now that he's going up against SEC talent. I think he's showing he's got it both talent wise and physically as well.
The verdict's out on what this offense is going to look like and how it's going to do. Last year raised the bar so high, it brought back memories of 2019. So we'll wait and see. However, I think it's a safe bet to say that the defense is going to be improved this year.
I hope so.
My heart can't take another year like that. My goodness
Exactly.
gracious. Brian
Yep.
Kelly cleaned house by firing the entire
Hmm.
defensive staff. He brought in a familiar face to LSU fans, Blake Baker,
Hmm.
got him from Missouri, and Baker is working on transforming this defense.
Yeah.
He said the other day they're not there yet, but they're getting there. And it all
Hmm.
starts with Harold Perkins, who
Oh, absolutely.
incredible talent, but
Hmm.
really seemed to suffer last year. The way that
Yeah.
Matt House's formations and the way that he was playing him,
Yeah.
it just did not work. But Perkins should be poised for another year. Defense, the linebacking core seems very strong.
Absolutely.
However, they lost some guys on the defensive line,
Hmm.
and what we have seen the past few years for LSU fans, the part that gives us the most heart palpitations is the secondary.
Absolutely.
We have seen so many examples of blown
Hmm.
coverage, guys
Hmm.
missing assignments. And so is that going to be corrected this year? We know they got Bo Davis on the defensive line. He's a great hire. And they
Hmm.
brought back Corey Raymond. So Darren,
Yeah.
I, I'm gonna go out. I think we're gonna see improvement all throughout the defense. What do
Yeah.
you think?
Well, I think scheme is going to be a big piece of that. We talked last week about a couple of different teams that are utilizing this 4-2-5 scheme, and that's exactly what Blake Baker is utilizing as well. It's what he did in Missouri. It's what he's going to do at LSU. And it was interesting to hear some people talk about. Some different sports reporters talk about the press availability this weekend, and not only did they get to see a scrimmage, but they got to see some drills, and one of the drills was red zone, and it was 7-on-7. No offensive line, no defensive line, no linebacker, just 7-on-7. And the feeling walking away from that 7-on-7 was, oh, have mercy, we can't cover anybody. We're going to get killed in the red zone. Because there was at one point, I think, 8 out of 9 plays, the offense threw a touchdown. And again, this is in 7-on-7. And then there was a line drill where the offensive line, and I like you talked about that offensive line, if they end up the year being the Joe Moore offensive line of the year, won't be shocking in any way. I think that's very realistic as a possibility. So they were absolutely killing the defensive line. But then when you got into 11 on 11 and you pull in those linebackers, you pull in the Harold Perkins, who is playing this year where he should be, and not out in the middle of halfway a strong safety, which have mercy, not even need to rehash that. And you pull in that scheme and the difficulty that scheme creates and the moving of personnel and stuff, they created some of the trouble that we were talking about with Garrett Nussmeier. Put him in difficult situations. He forced some balls through a couple of picks, and it looked like a completely and totally different circumstance. So the defense is going to improve, and it's all going to be on the change in scheme, how quickly they seem to be picking it up, and how emphasized the linebackers are in that scheme, and how strong of a group that is, that linebacker group, led by Harold Perkins.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Darren. And I can smell the gumbo already
Oh,
simmering, cooking. The gumbo pots are getting prepared for
mhm.
the tailgating. What do you like? What do you prefer? Do you like gumbo?
I like gumbo. Yeah, I would say, especially if I'm tailgating before like red beans and rice or something like that, I'm going to go with
Oh
gumbo.
yeah,
I'm going to go with
red beans
gumbo.
and rice, jambalaya,
Yeah. Oh,
uh,
jambalaya.
shrimp
That might
etouffee.
mm,
Mm. You like boudin?
crawfish, crawfish etouffee, also good. Oh,
Yeah.
boudin is one of the most incredible things. The have you had the boudin balls
Mm.
that are deep fried and have like pepper jack cheese in the
Mm-hmm.
middle?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on. We're talking Louisiana food now.
It's part of what makes a Saturday in Baton Rouge so incredible.
Exactly.
And anybody is willing to feed you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You can make friends real quick.
All you got to do is show up. That's exactly right.
Just nobody leaves leaves an LSU game day hungry. If you
That's
do, it's your
exactly right.
fault.
It's
It's
on
your
you.
fault.
That's exactly
Although,
right.
Darren, the other day I tried. Someone was raving about their gumbo. It was at a restaurant in another state,
Hmm.
and so I tried a cup of it, and they put okra in it, and they put
No,
tomatoes in it, and I thought,
no.
what is this travesty?
Yeah, that's not. No, no, no.
Yeah. So
Now, okra I have heard of before. I'll have to say I've actually had gumbo with that in it. And yeah, but tomatoes, no. Mm-mm.
it just did not work. I
No.
offered to help correct the problem. That
Good for
they would
you.
not let me into the kitchen.
Well, they should have.
Let's talk a little bit about LSU's schedule. They start off with a game in Las Vegas against the University of Southern California. Then they have a home game against is that Nichols
Nickel
Nichols
State, yep.
State, Harvard on the Bayou.
Yeah, exactly. I was hoping you'd say that. We have
Then
one
they,
listener that had already said it before you, but
of course, then they travel over to South Carolina. Got UCLA coming there, and then they've got some team that looks like a mascot. Is that a muskrat? What is that,
that
Darren?
is a jaguar. But you know what? I very much see the muskrat. I'm not going to lie to you. I think you got pretty well. That's South Alabama, the South Alabama
So,
Jaguars.
apologies to South Alabama fans. I've not been to my eye doctor this year to adjust the prescription on my glasses. So, yeah, that's absolutely a jaguar. Uh,
I see it.
they host the Ole Miss Rebels before they go to Fayetteville to play Arkansas. They go to College Station to play A&M. They've got Alabama at home,
Mhm.
Florida in Gainesville, and then they end with Vanderbilt and Oklahoma at home. So that's the LSU schedule. What are you expecting from this team in terms of record wise, Darren?
I tell you, a lot of it kind of stacks up favorably for them. I think, we're a lot of these teams. Obviously, we're going to get into. Obviously, I think they're favored in both the California games, USC and UCLA. I think South Carolina coming or them going to South Carolina is going to kind of be a mute point. I think they'll be strong in that. It's a good year to catch Arkansas, even though Arkansas always shows up for the LSU game for the most part. There are exceptions, but they always show up. But then, the games are spaced out because you got Arkansas, then you got a really nasty A&M Alabama. For all what we know right now, that's going to be an ugly little stretch. But did you come out of that with a Florida that we don't know anything about? That if they look like the Florida of last year, doesn't really matter if you're going to Gainesville or not. Vanderbilt, ugh, I think the last time, yes, it was with Joe Burrow, but the last time Vanderbilt came to Nashville, I think there was 58 points put up. So, and then finished with Oklahoma, but they get that at home. So that's a good. It sets up well for them. I think there's some good potential in this schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. It's
Yep,
it's football, and when it's your team, it's always fun to watch.
absolutely, absolutely.